So I played a tournament on Saturday this last weekend. It was the time control was game 45 with a 5-second delay, and it was 4 rounds all on a Saturday. So I think the first round was at 9:30, the second round was 11:15, third round was 1:30, and the last round was at like 3:30 or 3:15 or something like that. Boy, let me tell you, that's a long day. I was exhausted. Even before the third game, I was ready to just stop playing or something. But I persevered through. I played all 4 games. The first 2 games almost broke me. Like this first game, it wasn't that difficult, but it kind of distracted me because it felt so good to beat such a high rated player. I'm in the mid 1700s right now, and Ricky was in the 1900s, and I believe he lost some points though. He might be upper 1800s now. But in any case, I was excited to be playing a strong, much stronger player than in my last tournament. So yeah, we started off the game. He was white, and yeah, he played a move that I guess is more popular with higher rated people than lower rated tournament players. One knight f3 is really flexible. It can transpose into a lot of different things. I mean, he could go e4, c4, d4 next, and they're all different openings, right? So I tried to also remain flexible with knight f6, and he played c4, the English opening, and it, you know, I don't, as a d4 and a d5 player, I'm more comfortable in like straight up d4 systems. So I tried to transpose this into more comfortable like d4, d5 type openings. So I played c6 with the idea of playing d5, similar to a Caro-Kann. He plays e3. I go d5, and he plays knight c3. And I'm still hoping for him to play d4 so that we get more like a Slav structure. And I guess I was trying to decide between, the bishop, moving the bishop out, like in the Caro-Kann, I can get it out before I play e6, or I could just play e6 and go into like a semi-Slav. Again, hoping that he plays d4. I choose bishop g4 kind of on a whim. I didn't really have any reason for that over the other 2 moves that I was considering. It's kind of hard to make decisions like that when I'm not even sure if he's going to go d4 or not. And then he goes d4. So now we're definitely in a Slav where I've played bishop g4 instead of the more normal bishop f5. So I play e6. And here I have this square highlighted. I think he expected me to go bishop b4, and then he wastes some time, I guess, by playing a3, stopping me from going bishop b4. I never had any plans of going bishop b4, so I think this a3 move was kind of a waste of time. And besides, like, his bishop is back here to defend. There's no issue with bishop b4. You can just go bishop e2 and everything's fine. So yeah, I don't think bishop b4 is anything to be worried about, especially not. Before I play it, there's no reason to play e3. So I played bishop d6 like I was planning, and then he plays another weird pawn move, c5. And I don't know, it's not that weird. I mean, it hits my bishop. But after going back, the thing that white's done, I've heard some masters say this, like you don't want to release tension unnecessarily. With the pawn on c4, my pawn break e5 is actually more difficult to accomplish because of this pressure. Right, this pawn has a duty to defend the d-pawn right now, and once you release that, I can play e6, e5 much easier. Okay, so bishop e2, getting ready to castle. I bring out my last minor piece, and he plays b4, I guess wanting to put his bishop on the long diagonal, and yeah, I don't know. All these pawns on dark squares though is kind of a problem for this guy. But okay, he's got some space. And I castle, and he castles. And here I realize that it's already possible for me to do my e5 break. So e6, e5, threatening e4, kind of splitting the white position in half. And that would look really good, I think, with the 2 bishops bearing down on the king side. So he doesn't allow me to go e4, he trades. And, I guess I had to think for a little bit before playing e5 to make sure that this discovery isn't a big deal, and it turns out it's not. So I play there, and he takes. I take his bishop, threatening his queen. He has to take back, and then I want to trade again on e5 to make sure that because the king side, his king is starting to look bare over here. So I take with the knight. The computer likes taking with the bishop better. I feel like the bishop stands better on e5 than the knight, but I guess the computer has its reasons for preferring the other reason, preferring the other minor piece on the square. But yeah, I like the bishop looking in both directions from here. I'm threatening his knight, so he defends with bishop b2. And then here I had a long think. I think I must have thought for at least a minute or two, and I was just trying to decide what to do with my rooks, what piece to improve next. Probably one of my rooks makes some sense. I didn't know really what to do with the queen. I guess I might have considered queen c7 for some time, but g3 or even f4 puts a stop to that, and I didn't really like queen c7 f4 because then I have to take the knight, and maybe there's some pressure here. My queen has to come back to defend the knight, or I have to move the knight, or something like that. Anyway, yeah, I didn't like queen c7 right away, so I played rook e8. I guess I want both of my rooks on these two files, and I didn't know where the queen wants to go, so this rook seemed natural first. And now he plays a move that the computer calls a mistake. He plays queen c2. I guess the queen seems fine from here. You know, its scope has increased or whatever. It's actually looking at a pawn on my king side as opposed to just the king side. But let's go with this square. And the computers actually suggest now that the Greek gets sacrifice works really well for black. I think under best defense from white, like you end up with a queen for a rook and a minor piece or something by force after all of this, and if not, then you're winning much more material. Or even checkmating, right, if they don't defend properly. But okay, I didn't see any of that. The Greek sacrifice doesn't often occur to me to even look for that in a game. But I guess the signs that I've heard in lectures about the Greek Heft is that there's not a knight here, and that there's no bishop that can defend this square. So like if his bishop was here and could come to f5, f4, or if his bishop's here and can come to this square, then it probably doesn't work. But after this, and this, the king has to move up, and then he doesn't have this move, right, to help defend the h2 square. All right, so that's the reasoning why those are the telltale signs that say when the Greek gift is working. On the other hand, so I looked at knight g4 immediately as opposed to taking and then knight g4. Knight g4 normally is kind of a mistake because h3 and the knight just has to go back. But in this position after h3, I actually have queen h4, and he can't take my knight because I can just take on h2. So I went for it, and he played the h3 move that most people would do. But then I played queen h4, and I'm defending my knight indirectly just by the checkmate threat. But it's kind of interesting. He can't play f4 here because I have this nice fork. Excuse me. And yeah, there's a lot going on here. And it's funny, even if I was given another move, it's not clear actually what I'm threatening. But yeah, he has to react to. You kind of feel like as white you might have to react to all these pieces in your king's face over here. So he plays queen e2, which I guess is another mistake. It's not the best defense. The computer suggests that the best defense is knight here, which is it's hard to understand really. Okay, but queen e2, basically threatening my knight. Okay, so I consider two moves here, h5 and f5, just to defend the knight. h5 doesn't do much beyond defend the knight, but f5 could potentially prepare f4, hoping to crack open some more lines on the king side for my pieces. So yeah, I played f5, and the only thing to really consider after f5 is he has the pawn move f4, and suddenly the coordination of my queen and bishop is interrupted, and both of my minor pieces are hanging. But I calculated that I could just take the knight and everything's fine. So I played f5, and he played f4. So I was predicting his moves, which I felt good about. But it's interesting because I did not play the best attacking moves, and he didn't play the best defensive moves. But for somehow I was calculating this well enough to at least predict his moves, if not the best moves. The computer actually suggests instead of f5 that d4 is the best move here. Just immediately threatening this and the knight. So it's quite interesting. Okay, but I played f5, he played f4, and I took, just like I calculated. And yeah, he has two options here to attack the knight, to take the knight, or to take the bishop. And it turns out one is much better than the other, and he chose the wrong one. He took my knight. And it turns out I actually have two moves that win here. I can take his bishop, which is what happened in the game, or I can take the pawn, because he can't take the bishop because of g3. G3 is kind of devastating after he takes my bishop. So I was trying to calculate which was better in the game. It turns out if I take here, I'm winning at least a piece by force, and I've got an extra pawn or two as well. Taking here, I just win a bunch of pawns. But okay, so I took here, but I did, because I didn't see winning the piece later in this line. But let me show you that line actually, winning the piece. So I go here. And he can't allow g3, so he has to go g3 himself to defend. So queen takes, and then queen g2. And now I take here with check. And yeah, if he defends like this, then I just take this. The queen's pinned. And I guess if he tries to go here, I have the same thing. After king h1, what's the move here? Okay, so I guess it's rook up and over. It's pretty serious. But okay, yeah, everything's pretty serious here. But I guess this saves the bishop while allowing some serious threats here on the king side. But okay, they're both really bad for white. Anyway, so I took here, and that was one of my mistakes in the game. Obviously, like a lot of these moves are just not the best attacking moves, but they were just good enough, I guess. So queen takes, and then I take the pawn. And again, I'm threatening g3, so he can't allow that. So he plays g3 himself, gives up the pawn. He blocks. And here, I guess I had a choice between trading queens and then taking on e3, or just taking on e3 first. They all win, but, you know, of course, the computer never likes the one I chose. But okay, yeah, so I just saw that this endgame ought to be really easy for me, because I have the active rook already. This rook is tied down, you know, to this pawn, and this other rook is coming in here quickly, and I have 3 healthy extra pawns. So I was definitely really proud of this game. My opponent actually just resigned in this position, and I had a nice break to check out all the other games while the round was finishing. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this game. I'll be preparing videos for the next rounds shortly, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.